Hey guys, TMG here. Metroid for the NES is a pretty good game. And, well, it was the first game I ever played in the Metroid series. Technically, I owned the second game first on the 3DS Virtual Console. But there was some weird way you could play the first, like, 7 minutes of the first Metroid on the Wii U. So technically, it was the one I played first. It was also the one I owned first, because I got a cartridge on it. I got a cartridge of it for the NES. And, you know, my cartridge copy, it marks a weird point in time for me because the day after I ordered the copy of the game, Metroid Dread was announced. So that was kind of weird. And yeah, I wasn't quite into the series yet, but I took that as a sign that maybe the video game industry was spying on me. Now, that happened, but they're not actually spying on me. At least I don't think so. Now we're getting off topic. Let's get into the video. Now, playing Metroid for the first time was a pretty great experience. Maybe I should say magical. I popped in the cartridge, I started the game, and a vast world was open for me to explore. I could go wherever I want, and do whatever I wanted. Now, I spent days exploring Planet Zebes, finding as many missiles and E-tanks. See, I combined a missile and E-tank. It's just a funny TMG moment. Every video's a funny TMG moment. But finding as many missile and E-tank upgrades as I possibly could. Now eventually I discovered Ridley and Kraid hiding out, you know, in their little hideouts. And I eventually even found the Various suit, like right before fighting Mother Brain, if I remember. I don't know, first time I played the game was like 2 years ago, so memories may be a little rusty, but I think so. And I think it took me about 3 weeks to beat the game for the first time, which sounds like a long time, but for the first game, if you haven't played the first Metroid game before, and you don't know what to do, it takes a long time to figure out what you're doing, and figure out where the bosses are, and figure out where the items are. But yeah, I can remember finally getting to Torian, and it's one of the only games where you get like a twisting feeling in your stomach as you're getting closer to Mother Brain. Yeah, and then you finally beat the game. And you're like, oh, great game. But yeah, with that game, I was convinced to get Metroid Dread that very Christmas, and Super Metroid the following Christmas. And yeah, I already mentioned I had Metroid 2 on the 3DS Virtual Console, which I never beat on the 3DS. But yeah, Metroid Dread, Super Metroid, Metroid 2, they're all great games, and I had a lot of fun with them. But the more I played Metroid games, the more I realized how unique the first game is in particular, and what makes it so special. Now, what makes the first game in the Metroid series so different from the others? I hear you asking. They are all Metroid games after all. Now, well, all of the games in the Metroid series are exploration-based. That is quite obvious. Which means they're based on the idea of having the player finding the paths forward instead of just, you know, oh, go to the right. There's the goal there. Well, this is what all the Metroid games aim to give the player. There's another aspect of these games that is equally important, and that is the freedom that comes with the exploration, meaning the player's ability to do what they want, or explore in the way that they want to. Maybe the player doesn't want to keep progressing down their current path they're going down, so they just change their path, go a different way. Or maybe the player's choosing to fight one boss over the other because they have the option to pick which one they're fighting first. Now, despite this being really important to Metroid, the first Metroid game is the only game in the series that actually offers freedom to the player. But if freedom is so important to the Metroid formula, why don't the other games have it, I hear you asking? Well, they kind of do, in a sense. Do you notice how almost every time you replay the Metroid Dread or Super Metroid, you usually go down the exact same path? And, you know, the same way you did the way before? Meaning, almost every time you replay the game, you fight the same bosses in the same order, or collect the same items in the same order. And this is because these games give you a sense of freedom, but are still trying to lead you through the game. Yes, there are always ways you can get off the path, but that's not, you know, it's not the way the developer wants you to go. That's called sequence breaking. But for the most part, it will be the same every time you play it. And I'm not saying there's no freedom in these games. There's definitely points in these games where, you know, path splits or something like that, and you gotta pick which way to go. But freedom, for the most part, in the Metroid series is becoming more of an illusion than a truth. You feel like you have freedom, but you don't necessarily have it. Now, this isn't really a bad thing. These games are really fun and are considered some of the best video games ever made. This was most likely done to stop people from feeling like they were lost or had nowhere to go, and, you know, eventually giving up on the game. So yeah, there's definitely a pro to restricting the freedom that the player has. But because of how the developers have evolved the Metroid formula, the first game is the only one with that offers the player true freedom. You can fight the two mini-bosses, Ridley and Kraid, in any order you want. After getting your basic abilities like bombs and missiles, you can really go anywhere you want on planet Zebes. You could go to Kraid's lair first, Norfair, or keep exploring Brinstar. Yes, later games in the Metroid series are great games too, but for anyone who hasn't played the first Metroid game, I highly encourage you to, because you will not only find yourself having lots of fun, but you'll gain a new perspective on exploration as a whole in the Metroid series, and a new appreciation for the Metroid series in general. So that's all I got for you today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Yeah. Pretty good video, huh? I better stop stalling and just say TMG out. So TMG out. Bye-bye. Oh yes, he's already doing a lot of damage to me. Oh, you can also walk into him and spam missiles. So, like, he can be fairly easy, but you'll have to risk some of your health. And here's a secret. Ready? Did you know about that? Me either, until, like, my last playthrough. Oh, no. Is he gonna respawn? Okay. Yeah. For some reason I thought he might respawn. There we are. Another energy tank. Yeah, that one's one of the more, like, one of the harder ones to initially find, but I found it eventually, you know.